Hello, hello, everyone. Just trying to get everything kicked off. I am not a live person, so I'm going to try to invite Diana. Give me 1 second. See how I did. Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. We're rolling.
We're nailing this now.
When I started it, I was like, I'm not a live person, but I'm trying to do things a little bit differently. So here we go.
You and me both. You and me both. So let's let a few people kind of jump on and then we'll kind of get started and rocking and rolling. What do you say?
That sounds great. I was going to say, I see Dawn right now. So thank you, Dawn, for jumping on.
Hey. I was about to say, I'm trying to make sure that I can see all of the things. Okay. I think I got mine all set up on my end. And you're good to hear me okay?
I got you. You're coming through loud and clear.
I love it. I mean, it's a Friday. I mean, I say it's a Friday, but like in real estate world, is a Friday really a Friday?
No, every day is just as good as another to get a deal going. So,
Exactly. It's like Friday's for like our Wednesday.
right. Getting the weekend kicked off right.
E- Exactly. However, we're ending the weekend really great on Monday, so we're like a two for this week.
I love it. I love it.
Okay. Well, we will go ahead and get started. We just want to thank everyone for jumping on. We had some great questions this week. I saw some on my side. What about your end?
Same here. Same here. So I'm ready to like dive into it.
I know. I was like, we're gonna have to do multiple of these because I kept rolling in. I'm like, we're not gonna have enough time to do this. We might have to start like our own morning show.
Way to get me out of my comfort zone. So I appreciate that, Diana. Maybe we have to do that.
Hey, we're just gonna be the new what is it, Valery and D show.
I love
We're
it.
people what they want. They didn't know they wanted, but they don't know.
100%.
Amazing. Well, you guys, I am Diana Roybal-Lammers. I'm the producing sales manager here in the Tennessee market for Origin Point, and I have had the immense pleasure of working with Valery over at William Wilson Homes. We've partnered on a few deals. We honestly, it's just so great working together. You're like one of my favorite people of all time in this market. So I'm like, if I get to work with people that I enjoy, it's always such a pleasure. So I'm super excited to host this with her and kind of answer some questions that you guys had rolling in this week. So I'll let Valery tell a little bit about herself and then we'll jump right in.
Diana, I feel like you did a great job with that intro. Thank you so much for the kind words. I echo those back. Every time I work with you, I know it's going to be a super smooth transaction. You are so communicative and you stay on top of things. You keep me informed. So, again, I love being able to work with you, and you're such a collaborator. Thank you for being willing to do something like this with me. Always great on the thought partnership. So, again, just happy to be here. As you stated, I am Valery Parham. I am a realtor here in the Nashville, Tennessee area, and I am part of the William Wilson Homes team. So really glad to be here representing them as well. Love that team. And again, excited for the conversation.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you don't follow Valery, y'all, I highly encourage you to do so. She puts some great tips and tools and resources out there that I think everyone kind of needs to know. So if you don't follow her, I highly suggest it. She even put a great graphic up this morning about VA loans, and I love our veteran community. We've got Clarksville up in Fort Campbell, not too far from here. So definitely encourage you guys to give her a follow. Lots of great resources on her Instagram.
Hey, thank you so much. And likewise, I was going to say, anybody that's over on my side, y'all definitely need to check out Diana. She is constantly, again, keeping everybody informed in what's happening from a lender perspective and what's happening with those rates that we all love to hear about. So check her out as well.
Hey, There's a lot of changes happening. I am staying optimistic and positive about it. I think we're all like super excited, like sitting on the edge of our seats, like, all right, come on. What are we gonna do here?
It's like, let's go.
I'm excited.
Well, and maybe on that note too, because I don't want to take up too much of your time
Yeah.
today, one of the things that we had a question about was myths. Like, what are some of the myths that you hear every single day as it pertains to lending?
I would say when it comes to myths in the lending world, number one myth I would have to say is I have to have 20% down. I think people's grandmother started that myth, or grandmother started that myth. And I mean, it's like when the World Wide Web came into fruition, that was like the myth they put out there. I am here to say, y'all, you do not have to have 20% down payment to buy a house. That is a myth. You don't. There are multiple state programs out there that can get you in a house with 0% down payment. There are HA government programs that can have a minimum as little as 3.5%. Like I said earlier, Valery posted earlier about VA loans. That's a 0% down payment option if you're a veteran. So there are so many programs out there where your minimum down payment could be anywhere from 0 to 3, 3.5, 5, 10, and everywhere in between. So if somebody told you you had to have 20% to buy a home, you can let them know that is fake news, because you don't have 20% to have a down payment on a home. So I encourage you, have those conversations with your realtor and your lender and say, hey, what programs do I qualify for, and what does my down payment need to be? And if you have that target down payment that you want to achieve for a certain program, I tell people you need to plan for your home purchase months in advance. Because say you're like, I want to buy next spring. Great, let's talk now. Because let's figure out a game plan of what program you want to fit in, what down payment you want to achieve, what positive impact things if you wanted to improve your credit a little bit more, anything like that. What can we do now that'll help you in the spring when you really are targeting that? So down payment requirements, not 20%. And then back to that, I want to hear all the time is, and Valery, you probably get this a lot where clients are like, yeah, I wanted to buy a house, but I spoke to a lender and they told me that I can't do it.
Yep, happens all the time. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, I say, okay, great. If one lender said no, ask another. Ask another. And I say that because we all have different playbooks and different products to choose from. So if one lender said, I appreciate your application, but you just don't qualify, you need to take that with a grain of salt that you may just not qualify for their products. You may not qualify for what they offer. But when what lender offers is not the same as another. So I encourage you to talk to another, talk to more. And if your lender just says, I'm sorry, you don't qualify, and they don't tell you what you can do and why you don't, then that lender does not have your best interest at heart. Your lender should say, hey, if you in fact do not qualify, it should be, hey, you don't qualify, but this is why, and this is what we can do to get you where you want to be. That's who you want to work with.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And I would say that I was guilty of that. When I first started investing and buying on my own, I didn't know that one lender couldn't do something different from another lender, or that one lender could do something different from another lender. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I think people have like a lot of hesitation around having their credit pulled several times. And, can I go to different lenders? What does that look like? And so I echo that point for sure. Just because you get told no at one place doesn't mean it's a no from everybody, or just because it's a no right now doesn't mean you can't work on some things to turn it into a yes.
Absolutely. Hey, it's one of those, like, it may be a no, but it's not a not. Maybe it's more like a not right now. And back to what I said about preparing, like, hey, right now doesn't make sense, but let's do X, Y, and Z, and then we'll get you there. So I think it's a planning process. I think it needs to be more of that relational communication. Let's figure out a game plan so that we can execute together. So I would say one lender says no, ask another. That's my.
And it's kind of funny too, like going back to your point on the 20% down, I feel like things that I hear or maybe one of the first ones that I hear again is, to your point, that they already need assets, like liquid assets, or some kind of way like they magically already had a house before and they've gained all this equity. Like people who are thinking about buying, they feel like they've been left behind and that things are just so high now that they can't get into the game. So I like to tell people, again, from my own experience, I've never put 20% down on a home.
Yeah.
Never have I done that. And I've been able to purchase properties and been able to convert those into rentals and make money. And so for sure, I think that is one of the key ones that I hear every day, that I hope that we are debunking that for people so that they understand they can get in the game, they can get started.
Yes, and y'all, Valery is a great resource when it comes to investing in real estate. So you have to check out her book as well. And it goes back to what she was just saying. You don't have to get 20% on a home to start your portfolio. You know, you'll end up gaining that. So get started now. Don't wait. Home prices are going up. And I mean, what advice would you give to kind of take away that myth on, how they can move into an investment property or things like that?
Like I said, I mean, I think for me, simply starting, but thinking with that investor mindset. So
That's good.
for sure, I think,
That's
a house for a lot of people, we've been told that it is the American dream, and that when you buy a house, you need to buy your forever home, or you need to buy, you've worked so hard, you deserve this, you need to get everything that you've ever wanted in a house. Well, I would tell people to think a little bit differently about that. And I've been guilty of this too, where the second house that I purchased, I loved that house so much and I had put so much energy into decorating it that it took me a long time to move from that house. Well, now that house is a great rental property for me and it generates great income. So I like to tell people, if you think about buying a house that you can afford, that you like, it doesn't have to be something that you don't enjoy living in, but buy something that you already intentionally know that in a year or 2 or 3 years, you're going to be ready to move on to the next thing. And this thing is going to be a rental property for you. If you can think that way, you can leverage other people's money. You don't necessarily have to put 20% down. And that can help you on your journey to building a portfolio. And it's sustainable. It's something that doesn't have to feel overwhelming. That's one of the things that I would share with people in terms of, again, thinking with that investor mindset and just kind of starting small, but getting in there so that you can learn. I think that's really important.
That's so good. That investor mindset, I love that because I feel like we get a little bit guilty of the emotional attachment. So I like that whole like going in with an investor mindset, knowing that you're starting something that's going to turn into portfolio and move on. And hey, I'm all for renters paying for the mortgage. So
100%, for
I,
sure. They're helping you build that asset
a mortgage, yes and yes.
all day long. Yes, and yes, all day long.
Investor,
And that's,
love that.
well, and that's the other thing too. I was going to say, right now, I know there's a lot of hesitation with getting started because people are very tied to the interest rates. People want to go back to that 2%, that 3%. People are waiting on the sidelines. And I would tell people, not to wait. Right now is a great time to be able to go
Yeah.
in, buy something, have some leverage, be able to negotiate because sellers still want to sell. And you may be able to, leverage seller concessions to help you get your closing cost, or get a rate buy down, something that still accomplishes the goal. So
That's a solid myth right now is waiting on the market. That is a solid myth because like you just nailed it. You guys have so much negotiation power right now still. There's lots of seller concessions out there. And from the lending side, we still have products there and programs that are helping. I mean, if you wait on the market, what's the biggest like myth right now is waiting on the market, then you might miss out on homes here in a few months.
And let me tell you, Diana, I remember helping clients during the time when things were flying off the shelves. Literally, when people talk about multiple offers, there were so many offers on homes and prices being driven up. It was crazy. So I try to tell people, like, don't wait for that to happen.
You couldn't even get an open house.
It's like you're throwing elbows in there, like trying to get around.
I remember I would create like flyers for open houses, and then like I'd be like, all right, I'll have this
Oh,
to
it
you
was
in 2 days.
already sold. It was already sold, right?
Hey, we went under contract. We don't need that one anymore. And I'm like, I'm sorry. like, I didn't even type in the address yet. Like, how is this possible? So, I mean, yes, I feel like that's a huge myth right now, is waiting for this market crash to happen. Like,
And I'm
yeah,
only chuckling because I lived through it. It was not
yeah, you
fun.
might want to open up your checkbook more too.
Yeah. So again, it's kind of like, if you will just, pay attention to what's happening right now, if you can get something again that you like, that you can afford, there are so many things that you can do once you've gotten your foot in the door. And it's almost kind of like waiting on the rates. I mean, maybe it could work out. People talk about waiting for the prices to crash here. Those are possibilities, but what is that going to mean on the other side of that? So again, if people can just operate with what they know right now and leverage the resources that they have and the experience and the knowledge that the people bring, I think that's some of the best sound advice to combat some of those myths.
I agree. On top of like waiting on the market, I feel another myth that I hear from a lot of people is, oh, I'm just waiting for my income to be right. And I'm like, what does that mean exactly? Because a lot of times they don't understand, what the income requirements are. I always tell
Yeah,
people, you think try to learn mortgage is probably going to change. So I
that is
always
so
say,
true.
so I think a big myth is everyone's like, oh, but I'm not a W-2, like pay stub, like type of income. So I just didn't think I could get a home. I feel like the market has shifted so much because people have such an entrepreneurial spirit that they don't realize that there are programs tailored to them.
Yeah.
We do have self-employed, products. We do have bank statement products out there that people just don't generally know about. So I think that is another like myth. And when it comes to income, is that people think, oh, I don't make straight like base income. Like I could probably never buy a house. It's not true.
Well, and almost like what you said earlier, too, it's kind of like if you will take the time, because if you can afford a 2,500 or a $3,000 rent payment, surely there's a way that we can get you into a house. So if you will just take the time to reach out to a lender,
Mhm.
and again, or reach out to a couple lenders just to see what it is that you need to be able to afford that home, there is a way to make it work.
I agree. That's so good. I mean, there's even investor options that's out there where you're basically qualifying on the income that property is going to make. So, like, back to that investor mindset, okay, let's get you qualified on the income that you're going to make on that house. Like, those options are out there. And I know that a lot of people just don't talk about them. So, back to communicating, talking to lenders, making a game plan, seeing what products work for you. I mean, I think that's all tenfold of what you need to do when you're looking to buy a home. So debunk all of those myths.
Make sure you go talk with Diana and let her tell you what they have to offer over there. Like, seriously. Again, you're a great resource. So I think people should reach out to you and ask those questions, because that can put you on the path to being able to buy something that you really like and enjoy.
I totally agree. I think a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I talked to my bank. Okay, that's great. And I encourage you to. But there is a difference between a bank, a mortgage company, and a broker. So I tell people we're all different. Like, yes,
Hmm.
we do things that kind of, go side by side with all of them, but some banks are a lot more stricter because they have a lot on the line. Also, with banks, mortgages are only a piece of their pie.
Hmm.
They do a lot of everything else as a financial service. So sometimes mortgages aren't what they focus on. So sometimes it's good to talk to a mortgage company or talk to a broker. And back to exploring your options. If one lender says no, talk to another. Everyone has a different playbook. So I definitely think that there's a little bit of like perspective on banks versus mortgage companies versus brokers. And I just tell people, talk to them all. Figure out what works best for you because everyone's scenario is different. So,
I love that advice.
Valery gives the best advice. So, Valery, what would you say about your business is different from others? What do you bring to the table here in Nashville? A freaking author, which is amazing to me.
I appreciate you sharing that. One of the things that I would say, I mean, I'm a born and raised Tennessean. I have lived in Nashville for over 20 years now. And I come from a perspective of, yes, when I see the prices that they are today, I'm like, wow, I could never have imagined that Nashville would get on this trajectory. And so I've seen that history, I've seen that growth, I've seen it as an owner, I've seen it as an investor, now as a realtor. I take that information, I take that history and experience.
Yeah.
I'm able to share that with other people who can't believe the prices and where things are going. And I let them know, here is the history of things. And you know how it goes. Some things are cyclic too. I tell people my first interest rate that I ever had on a house was 8.75%. People now would think that that's crazy. So when I see people sitting and waiting because they think 4% is too high or 5% is too high or 6% is too high, I tell people it is relative, and it really is.
Look at history.
Yeah, it's just like making it work for you. The other thing that I would say about the way that I try to operate my business is I'm out there. I'm doing the same things that you're doing. I'm not telling you to buy a house, or I'm not telling you to invest when it's something that I don't believe in myself. And because I am invested and because I do those things, I'm happy to share any of those experiences for the people who are looking to not just buy their first home, which again, I love helping people find their, first home, their dream homes, if you will. But if they are looking to grow that portfolio and start, then again, anything that I've done well, happy to share that. Anything that I've hit a roadblock or a pitfall, happy to share those things as well so that other people can avoid that. And then
from a first-hand experience, and like that you're actually doing it yourself. I think that says a lot. I really do, because you know what it's like to sit in that chair and figure out how to make things work and what you needed to do. So I love that you're walking the walk but talking the talk too. Like you're actually doing it from experience.
I appreciate that, because it's not always road. Diana, I'm sorry. This is how you know I don't do lives. I was getting a phone call, so hopefully that doesn't happen
I was like,
again.
I just lost you for a small second. You're talking to someone, and also they're like, boop, 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 boop.
It's
I was like, did she freeze on me? Is it my internet? Do I need
no,
to start?
it wasn't
Here?
you. It's me. I will prepare for this next time, I promise. But I was just going to say, I mean, in the real estate world, like, things aren't always perfect. Just like this phone call coming in when I'm trying to do this live with you, like, things aren't always perfect. And so again, I think to be able to share that with people so that they can understand, having reserve money or having some backup money that you're ready to pull for emergencies. And I think even you bringing up the book, for example, like, education is very important to me.
Yeah.
I try my hardest to make sure that I'm taking information in, that I'm talking to industry leaders, that I'm researching things, and to be able to take that information and to give it back to my clients. That is really important, because I want to work with and help coach people into being informed buyers. And so that book project was really something to be able to help people have a guide, something that they can slowly learn over time, or again, I should say, as quickly or as slowly as they want, but having a resource along with being able to call me up and ask me questions, because I think the more people are informed on what their options are and thinking creatively, again, they can get started and they can grow as quickly as they would like without having to have all of these resources in terms of monetary resources. So that's what I think is important.
And I mean, you just hit a key point right there, y'all. Is she wants y'all to be informed. Hence, that's why we're doing this Q&A, because I feel like there are so many people that have these questions but don't know where to find the answers, or don't know where to go. So I love that we're just continuing that education, because I feel like, too, there's a huge plethora of next gen people who are about to enter the market and just don't know where to start. So I think putting these resources out, answering questions for people, I think is huge. So I love what you're doing with everything.
I appreciate that. And one thing that I thought about after I said it, that you for sure would be the right person to ask this question, but people ask me all the time about rate buy down. So like a 2-1 buy down, what does that mean? Could you help like simplify and explain that to people?
Absolutely. So it's kind of funny, like 2-1 buy downs and 3-2-1 buy downs. Those weren't really like popular a few years ago, but now that interest rates have come up, it's extremely popular. So what a 2-1 buy down essentially means is that the seller is offering a credit or concession to prepay your interest, essentially. So for example, if you lock a rate of 6.5, right, on a 30-year fix, that first year, you're actually going to make monthly payments at a 2% decrease. So your first year will be based off of a rate of 4.5. And then your second year would be based off a rate of 5.5. And then you actually won't get to your locked rate until your third year. So your third year, you'd hit that 6.5%. And why that's really great and why people are utilizing it is, one, the seller's paying for that interest for 2 years, but two, it's helping with that payment shock of having a mortgage payment that might be at a higher interest rate, especially if you weren't expecting that, or if you're coming from a rental situation. Sometimes you kind of get a little bit like flustered or like, oh my gosh, it's a big monthly payment. So having it gradually increase, I feel like people mentally feel like that's helpful. But on top of that, people are preparing for, well, hopefully by my third year, I'll be able to refi. And when rates come down, so they're able to, A, take advantage of the seller paying that prepaid interest, but two, they're able to have a lower monthly payment for a couple of years, and three, hopefully refinance before that comes. Yeah. And on that I always hear is, well, if I refi before I hit my locked rate, do I just lose out on all of that interest that the seller had paid at my closing? I tell people, ask your lender, because some lenders handle it differently. But I know for us, we do apply that to your principal balance. So whenever you do refi and pay off that first mortgage, we'll make sure you still get credit for that interest. So
See, that sounds like a win-win to me.
yeah, I mean, can you imagine having, a rate in the threes or fours for your first year, like in this environment right now? So it's definitely super helpful, and your seller pays for it. So it's a great marketing tool, a great negotiation tool, and I highly encourage it. I feel like we'll slowly see that not be as popular when rates potentially shift down, because I think people will hope for more of a permanent buy down. Yeah. But it's definitely still out there. It's definitely still popular. And I encourage, if the seller is going to cover it, to look into it. Ask your lender what that means and what those costs look like. Doesn't help to ask.
Yep. Why not?
To ask, I should say. So, hey, like we said, education and information.
All day. Those are the keys.
Yes. Well, I mean, this has been so educational and awesome, and I feel like we've answered a lot of the amazing questions that came in through our DMs. So I think we're gonna have to do this again, because I feel like we could keep talking for more time.
I would love that.
So to close this out, do you want to share something fun or cool or crazy, like a success story, and then we'll wrap it up on a Friday?
Okay. I would say, I am really thankful that I get to work with a variety of different buyers who have different goals and needs. I think on the first time home buyer side, like some of the people that are popping into my mind right now are, they were a little nervous or timid about jumping in, but on their first purchase, what the house appraised for versus what they the sold price, they walked in day one with like 40-50K worth of equity. So I love
one like that.
Yes, like you and I did one like that.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like we had one like that where I had back, y'all, and I was like, Valery, she's walking into equity.
Seriously, like day one, walking into equity. So I love those stories. From an investor side of the house, I've had the pleasure of working with some folks who are coming out guns blazing. They're buying 2 houses at one. So if you ever hear people talk about HPRs, horizontal property regimes here, they're buying those 2 tall houses together. They're living in one, and then they rent the other one. And so they start generating income. They start understanding the process of property management, and they've got somebody helping them pay for both assets. So those types of stories, like I said, from a first-time home buyer or from an investor, like thinking with that investor mindset, those are some opportunities, like I said, where you can scale up pretty quickly And I just love being part of that. I love helping people be able to accomplish those types of goals and then being able to replicate that. Because once you get started and you learn those rules, you can just do it over and over and over again.
I love that. And hey, like I said, once you get started, you're just going to want to get another one, and another one, and another one. And if you ask any person, they say, what is the best stream of income? They're all going to say real estate.
Real estate, baby. Real estate, baby. I love it.
Well, I am so glad that we did this. Thank you so much for partnering with me on this and doing an amazing Q&A for everyone. I think it was extremely helpful, and I think we debunked a lot of amazing myths. Thank you.
Me too. Me too. So we definitely got to do it again. Thank you so much.
There you go. Well, you have an amazing day. Thank you, everyone, for checking us out and watching, and hopefully we'll see you guys again soon.
All righty. Bye.
Now I figure out how to stop this.